Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Seeds of Hope. Today I have Kirsten joining me. How do you say your last name, Kirsten?
You know,
Oh, okay, there you go. So
think
thank you
football
for
player.
what was that?
It's the same name as the football player.
Oh, okay, I love that. Well, welcome and thank you for joining me. So to start off with, I would love just to get a little bit more background about, who you are and what made you sort of go down that path of becoming that IVF fertility coach.
Yeah, so I'll probably start with I'm a bit of an A-type personality. Um, and so that led me down the road to becoming an IVF and fertility coach, but there's a journey behind that.
Yes.
And so I started IVF when I was 29, and
Okay.
we'd been trying to have a baby for about a year. And we're like, obviously this isn't working, need to get some tests done. And
Yeah.
that is the moment that kind of shattered our world.
Mm.
They ran some tests and worked out that I had low AMH
Yeah.
to the point where at 29 years old, I was actually had the body of a 45-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then double whammy, we had male factor infertility as well.
Okay.
So the doctors literally looked at us and said to us, the chances of us having our own biological children is slim to none, and you're going to need to consider donor eggs. But we'll give it a go if you want to give it a go.
Yeah. Wow. So at 29, that's a lot to
That's a
hear.
lot, yeah. And you're thinking here, you've just been trying to have a baby for a year, and yes, okay, you're stepping into the IVF world, it's going to do something about that problem, and then you get hit with that whammy of, well, actually, this is going to be way harder than what I thought it was going to be. Never mind just like stepping into the world of infertility.
Mm.
So that led me down the road of, we did our first round of IVF, and when you start in the infertility journey and you do your first round, you're super hopeful.
Oh,
You have not been hit by what is IVF, where there's nothing guaranteed. It's a complete roller coaster. You're like riding the wave, basically. You're doing something, super hopeful, haven't been stressed about it, haven't been tainted by any previous cycles.
yeah.
Um, we got to the end of the first round and actually fell pregnant with a grade D embryo, which was shocking.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But we miscarried that baby at 12 weeks. That's no heartbeat.
Mm. It's devastating.
And yeah, so at that point, the doctors were like, well, we kind of told you so. This was not going to work out for you.
Mm.
And I took the next 3 months and basically A-type personality kicked in, and I researched the heck out of
Mm.
IVF infertility, and I read thousands of medical journals, articles, blogs, whatever was out there
Mm.
that could be consumed. I consumed it.
Yeah,
And I
right.
kept up
Was,
with
was
it
this after your first
after the
round?
first one, yeah.
You
Because
decided, right? Yeah.
I'm one of those people where I'm like, mind over matter. Like, if I
Yeah.
can come up with another way around it, and I refuse to accept the fact that I could not have children.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
and if that was going to be the case, which may have ended up being, I wanted to
Mm.
go out with well, I'd known I'd done every single thing possible to have
Yeah.
my baby, because then I could rest. Like, that would be my peace.
100%. Yeah.
So yeah, so did that, and then did the second round, and so my AMH was super low. So every time we did a round of IVF, we only got 2 eggs, like maximum.
Yeah.
So like a round of IVF for me it's a lot to get 2 eggs.
Do you mind me just asking do you remember what your AMH level was at that time?
Yeah, I think it was, so there's two different ways of measuring it, but the one my
Yeah.
clinic did, I think it was like 3.4, and it should for
Yeah.
my age be in like the 4.5 range or something like that. But by the
Yeah.
time
Okay.
I did my last round of IVF, it was like 0.2.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty bad. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so we did our second round of IVF, got 2 eggs. To the shock of the clinic, both fertilized, and
Mm.
both were grade B at day 3, and one
Okay.
was given to freeze.
Yeah. So we're hopeful
Um,
by this point.
yeah, so the doctors actually could not believe the difference. Like they actually said to my husband and I, what did we do?
Mm.
Because they have never seen something go like what we had before to what we had now with low AMH in the space of 6 months.
Yeah. Wow.
And then I said to them, well, this is what we did. They're like, that's not possible. I'm like, It is. You've seen the test results. It's possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that baby didn't. So round 2 baby didn't stick. So I've done 4 rounds in total.
Yeah.
Came out with 2 frozen eggs, and then the last round, so round 4, we did fresh cycle, and that gave me my son. And then the frozen cycle, and that gave me my daughter.
Oh, beautiful.
Having walked that journey where I've been told, thanks, but no thanks, this isn't going to happen for you. And having seen living proof, like just looking at those test results next to each other, knowing that you can change your outcome, you can take back control, you can do something about your egg and embryo quality, which doctors often will say to you, sorry, it's just one of those things. You've got bad eggs, your egg quality is bad, your embryo quality is bad. That's just tough, and this is how we're going to go with it. Like, you can do something, you can take control, you can finally hold your baby. I mean, for me, it took me 4 rounds of IVF for miscarriage and a frozen cycle. But like, I have 2 kids against the diagnosis of this is not going to happen for you.
That's just amazing. And I think I've also been in that position where I don't have my baby yet, but I've been in that position where it is very much like these are the results, this is the way, there's no this is it type thing. And it's absolutely devastating when you do hear that and you walk away and think, oh my God, I've got no other, this is a doctor or a specialist telling me this. And of course, like, your first reaction is they're right. That's it.
Yeah,
We're doomed
they're the
here.
medical professional, right?
But always go with your gut, and always, if you know that there's something out there or there's more to it that, you can find out, I think, you've done the right thing by, going and researching and really studying what you can do to get this baby in your arms.
That's exactly it. And like, that's what actually led me. Like, I finished my rounds of IVF and I got my kids, and I was sitting down the one day and I had a friend who started this journey. And I was like, I can impart so much wisdom here, because I spend hours and hours and hours and hours in textbooks, and I've tested like what I read, and I can tell you what does work and what doesn't work because I tested it all.
Wow.
And I'm like, I can tell my friend, okay, this is what you do, because even if I can help one woman hold their baby, like, that is my life's mission. They don't have to go and spend hours and hours and hours researching. Like, if I can give them that ability, like, I can help let's not feel lost. Let's not feel overwhelmed. Let's not feel unsupported. Like, that's what I really want to help women with. Like, you're not isolated. You're not on this journey on your own, because often you start this process and you literally feel like you're the only person on the planet this is happening to.
Yeah. And you just feel isolated and lonely, and especially if you don't have, any friends or family that understand or have been through it. It can be very lonely, and that's one of the reasons I started Seas of Hope, in the hope to have this support network of women who are going through it, to actually have that support, because it can be very isolating. So just going back to, you doing your research, and finding out what you can do to help. So what explain sort of, I suppose, what that egg and embryo quality means, and what women could do to really help themselves in that area.
Okay, so when we talk egg quality, we're talking, is your eggs genetically normal? And that genetically normal is, does it have the right number of chromosomes to actually develop into a healthy pregnancy? So that's kind of step one. And it really is egg, sperm, embryo. So like, if those are the 3 things you really need to think about. So that's the egg part. The embryo side, again, is, does that embryo have everything it needs to develop from a chromosome standpoint? And sometimes when you look at embryos under a microscope and they are grade A or whatever, it doesn't mean that they have all the genetic makeup it needs to develop. And that's why you'll often have your embryo looks perfect on paper, and then it won't implant, or you'll miscarry. And it's just because, yes, grading, like, science has had to come up with a way to say, well, which eggs make most sense to put in, and gives it a grading as to what the picture looks like. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's genetically normal and has all the chromosomes. And that's why, like, you'll often hear them, perfect embryo, and then it doesn't implant. And you sit scratching your head going, I don't understand. Like, my doctor told me it's perfect. This should work.
Mm.
And it hasn't
Yeah.
worked. And you have no idea what to do next, right? Because in theory, you had everything lined up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is often like one of the root causes of IVF failure. And like the doctors badge it as bad luck or, oh, well, the cycle wasn't meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Really is down to your egg, your sperm, and your embryo quality. I guess there
Yeah.
are some other factors that play around in terms of like implanting and your
Mm.
body around that space, but that's the beginning of the journey, right? Like if you don't have a good quality egg, nothing else matters.
No.
You're not going to go any further from that point. So there's really like
Mm.
a bunch of things you can do to try and help that piece and stuff that you can control. And like
Yes, that was probably
I
one
say that.
question for you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I say that because when you step into the IVF, it literally feels like your entire world gets spun out of control and nothing, literally nothing, belongs to you anymore. Your body doesn't belong to you. You feel like a
No.
lab rat. You're on scheduled injections. You're on scheduled appointments. You need to be certain places at certain times. Like nothing is in your control anymore. So when I say you can control these, it's with meaning because it makes a massive difference. Because for me, when I started this, I'm like, I can actually do this. I feel like I'm contributing towards my IVF cycle because I can control these things, even though I can control nothing else.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, and it helped me because I was like, I can actually, it almost like helps you to process a little bit. That you're
Mm.
not feeling like you're just spinning in this world, waiting for something to happen to you. You're rather actually being proactive and trying to help it.
Yes.
Yeah, so some of the things we can do to cut, and you'll probably hear this, everyone tells you this, but
Yeah.
cutting back on sugar and processed food really does lower inflammation. And when I say all of this stuff, I'm not saying go gung-ho and throw out your kitchen and everything with it. Like small changes make a massive difference. So it's not about perfection here. It's just
Yeah.
about consistency. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter whether you do everything in a big bang or whether you do little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. Like it does all of it. It's all doable. You still with me? Sorry, you froze.
Yep, I'm still here.
But, okay. I was like, oh, my internet's gone.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Yeah, so it's all doable and you can do it in little pieces. Every little bit that you do makes a difference. So
Yeah.
cutting back on sugar and processed food is one of the big ones because it lowers inflammation.
Yeah.
Then the big one that I found, which I wasn't even aware of until I started researching, was toxins in your home.
Okay.
So this one's very interesting because nobody talks about this. But when I started to change mine, like, you eat healthy already because you know you're going to be a mommy. So you
Yeah.
start that journey already well before you even hit IVF.
Yes. Yeah.
Toxin one is an interesting one because like until I did my research, I didn't even clock that this was a problem. I mean, we're talking about like things in your kitchen, the soap that you use on your body, your shampoo, your makeup, your perfume. All those different things actually have endocrine disruptors in them, which are messing with your hormones that help your eggs to develop. So
Wow.
those
And
things
so many people would not know that or think about
no.
that, especially at the start of their IVF journey.
And I mean, like I used to have a love of painting my nails
Mm.
in all these different ways. And like I read this and then I went to go look at the back of the bottles of my nail polish. I literally cleared out my entire nail polish drawer because nothing in them was good for me or my eggs.
Wow.
Like it's that crazy. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying go and be like throw out your whole house, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I did some key things. I mean, I did some in the kitchen where we were using them. The key ones I did was like my shampoo, my body
Yeah.
wash, my nail polish, like stuff that was physically going on my body.
Yeah.
Those were the
You
ones I
started
changed.
to-
And then,
Okay.
I changed plastics. So there's an interesting thing about plastic. So
Yeah.
you'll see on plastics BPA free,
Yes.
which is fine, but plastic is still hard. So they put in another component that makes it hard, which leaches the same chemicals. They just not required by law to report it.
Okay. Interesting.
So then when you put that plastic container, let's say with your food in the microwave and it gets hot, it leaches all those chemicals into your food and you then eat it. The same thing with where you put that plastic in the deep freeze, leaches the chemicals into your food and then you eat it. Those chemicals are endocrine disruptor chemicals, so they are not helping your eggs to develop. So like I swapped all my plastic stuff for glass or stainless steel.
Okay.
Water bottles, cups, whatever it is, it became glass and stainless steel because of like not having any of that. And just simple changes like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I went from you need a donor egg to good quality eggs and embryos within the space of 6 months by making some of these changes. I mean, the food one, like I said, most women do this naturally. The
Yeah.
toxin one is an interesting one.
That's huge. And I think
That's a huge one.
you don't realize that the things we are putting on our bodies, and like for me, I'm a bit of a tanner. Like my whole life have used probably fake tan. Now I've stopped recently because every time I would use it, I did think, this, because we're at that point where we're exploring other options, as in things haven't been working and, whatnot. So I was like, oh, I might put tan on tonight. I'm like, no, don't do that, because it's, especially putting it over your tummy and stuff like that. Like, it cannot be great. And I think for someone like yourself who has done the research into how bad it can be for us, I think it's a really important message. And, I think also you don't realize. So like, even as you said, just starting small, right? Like cutting just things out bit by bit.
Just replacing your water bottle from a plastic water bottle to a stainless steel one. Lots of difference already.
Yeah. And like from a nutrition point of view, so I know that obviously, yes, as you said, we tend to kind of clean up our diet a little bit while you're trying to fall pregnant. Are there any specific foods off the top of your head that you could think to implement more of, or don't have as much? What do you think there?
Because it's going to sound completely shocking. But like, people say to you, avoid fats. I'm going to say to you, don't avoid fats. Like, you need to eat good quality fats. So think like avocados, nuts, seeds, that stuff. Body actually needs that. And by cutting that out, you're not helping development of embryos. So like with some of my clients, I'll say to them, try a Mediterranean diet. Because that gives you a nice, well-rounded, and again, doesn't need to be perfect. Life happens. But if you're consistent, like 70, 80% of the time, that's already way better than what you were before changing your diet or before taking the toxins out or whatever it is. You just need consistency. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I'd say Mediterranean diet, and don't skip the fats, because people have a tendency to do that because they're like, oh, it's going to add weight. This isn't about weight. This is about a baby.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And if someone was listening to this, what would you say, like time-wise? So if they wanted to start on this journey, obviously implementing these changes, how long do you think they would need to be kind of doing this before they may see a difference in egg or embryo quality?
You need to do at least 90 days. You can do less than 90 days. The reason I say 90 days is because egg maturity is 90 days. So in theory, if today I start, I will only see the benefits of the eggs that I'm changing, if you like, in 3 months' time. That's when those eggs are maturing.
Yeah.
So you can, like, even if you started today and did a month before your IVF start, you'll see some of the benefit. But if you want maximum bang for your buck, and implement all of this, the 90-day sweep is because you'll have from the very beginning of that egg maturity process right to the end, where you're impacting the genetic coding that goes into those embryos. And like, I've done it where like I wasn't super great after round 2 because, and then I picked up again, started moving things slowly out of the list, picked it up again, probably I'd say 60 days before round 2. And I still got grade B embryos, and I still got good enough to freeze. But obviously by that point I'd been through this like life change for sort of 6 months. But so I'd say if you really want to see massive changes, 90 days is your number.
Yes, okay.
And if you are, like, I've had clients who are like, look, we've done 4 rounds of IVF, like this one's going to be our last one. I have said to them, wait, like, see your 90 days out, push it out so that in 3 months' time you do your next round. Even if you do it in 4 months, even better, because then you've had 90 days and another 30. So you're squarely within the window that those embryos and those eggs have had the full benefit of this process. So push it up by another month, because this is going to be your last round. You want to make sure you've done everything, and you can hand on heart say, I've done everything to have peace that if this doesn't work, it doesn't work, but I've tried every single thing.
Everything. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
shockingly enough, like the clients that have done that have actually fallen pregnant.
That is just amazing. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, exactly. It makes my soul sing because I'm like,
Yeah.
I know how challenging this journey is, and if you can get
Mm.
your miracle, man, like I was
Oh,
right there with you.
oh, I know. That is just so beautiful. And I can see how emotional you get from just talking about it and helping. It is because, you're helping these women get their beautiful baby at the end of the day. And that is just, that feeling of just joy and happiness. And because, as you said, it is in this journey, can be very up and down with emotions, sad, frustrating. We feel angry, like, why isn't this working? And so that's just, that's beautiful. And it's this conversation that we're having, we've actually decided, we were just finished our fourth round, and we've actually decided to take 3 months off. So this has been great for me because it is something that, again, as you said, normally you're at the start of your IVF journey. You make a few tweaks, right? Because again, you kind of think, well, we're doing IVF, it's going to happen. Like,
Yeah,
this
do
is
not
it.
taint it.
Yeah. It's like, oh, well, IVF will help. All these medication, of course, we're going to fall
Yeah,
pregnant. And obviously, as time goes on, and you're not getting the results that you want, you then start to go, okay. However, I do think a good piece of advice, probably from you and I, from to anyone who might be starting this journey, is don't wait.
yeah,
Start, like,
100%.
because as we both know, it sometimes doesn't happen after the first or second round, and then you're kind of in it, and then time's going on, and if people like probably me, age is a factor, and so I think, just try and make these subtle changes sooner rather than later, and reach out to people like yourself and people that have gone through it for support and advice, because there's nothing more devastating when you do get to a point where you think, oh my God, is this, we're on our fourth round and nothing's happening.
Yeah, and like like when you're starting, you'll be surprised how long IVF actually takes. Like
Oh,
you just think it's like a month, you do some
yeah,
injections, you have egg retrieval, you got a 2-week wait. I mean, it's way more than that.
way
I
more
mean,
than that.
to put it into context, like our 4 rounds and a frozen cycle took us the span of like 6 years.
Wow.
So it takes
Yeah,
a beat.
yeah, yeah. Because it's not even just, getting pregnant, it's keeping the baby too.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
there's so much more that's involved with just, oh great, we've got a good egg, good embryo, now we're going to be pregnant and that's it. So yes, that's, I think start sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Did you have, at the start of your journey, did you have, you right?
Yeah, dogs bark in the
That's
back.
okay. That's all right. Dogs bark. Did you have any testing done, like for your, like when you kept, not, you obviously weren't getting many eggs and embryos, and that's similar to my situation. And I know that there's like a testing, you can test your embryo or test the egg just to see.
Yeah, it's the
I think
PGTA testing.
yeah, okay. I think it does cost
So
more, doesn't
yeah, it does. So I'll explain what it is and then my
it? Yeah, of
opinion.
course. Yeah.
So the PGA testing is basically they will take a biopsy of your
Yeah.
embryo, and they
Mm,
will then test it. Does it have the 27 chromosomes it needs? So does it have everything it needs to be genetically viable?
yeah.
Sometimes they'll come back to you and say, embryo is no good, it's missing whatever chromosomes missing, or embryo is perfect, has all the chromosomes, let's transfer those.
Yeah.
Having researched what I've researched, having worked with a bunch of clients,
Mm,
my opinion of the PGA testing is that when they take that biopsy, they damage the eggs.
okay.
So when they come back to you, and this is why I said this is my opinion, just having read what I've read and having worked with clients who've done it.
Yeah.
So they take that biopsy out, and in my opinion, they damage the egg's chromosome count, because like that egg at that point literally just has the data it needs to develop.
Mm,
It has nothing else, right? So they will then test it and say, this embryo is perfect, has all the chromosomes. In my experience and the clients I've coached, 99% of them, when they've put those embryos back, they have failed to implant.
wow.
And these are genetically normal embryos, right? They should be implanted. And even if they are not implanting, at least 50% of them should be implanting. Like the implantation rate should be much higher than if we knew it was not a genetically normal embryo. So in my opinion, the PGTA testing it works. It tells you it's genetically normal, but I think it damages the embryos.
Okay.
Based on my experience. So where people have asked, should we do this testing? Because, my embryos have been grade C or D or whatever quality before, or they've been A quality and have failed to implant.
Yeah.
My answer to them is, if you want to, go for it.
Yeah.
But if this was me in your shoes, I'd be saying no to the PGTA testing, and I would be doing the 90-day plan, because then I know those embryos are good quality embryos, regardless of the PGA testing.
And this is exactly
that way I'm comfortable that I have done everything that embryo is going to be a good quality embryo.
Yeah. Amazing. And this is exactly why I get people on this podcast like yourself, because there's so many things out there, so much information. Someone's done something and then you want to know, how that worked. And I think learning and listening to people who have been through it, there's nothing better. Like someone who might have been thinking of doing that testing and may have now listened to you and it's like, okay, no, she's done the research, she's been through it, and that's why it's so important to really these conversations.
And I think our doctors don't always share everything with us.
No.
I know, looking back now, this is the gift of hindsight, right?
Yeah.
Looking back now, I mean, the doctor said to us before we started our first round of IVF, let's do a climid round, which is basically where they stimulate you take a pill and they just say, this is the point where you're going to ovulate. So basically it's all natural. Having looked back at that, knowing what I know now, that would never have worked. I have low ovarian reserve. We have male factor infertility. We tried naturally for a year. What the hell? It would never have worked. But the doctors scored a bunch of cash out of us because we were naive and went, okay, we're doing something to help the process.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know now, I would have said to them, no, that's not going to work. I know it's not going to work.
Yeah, that is just, it's so powerful. The more information you know, hey, it can just save so much heartache and money, by the way. Because I have had a conversation with even a specialist that I used to see, because I've seen a few, and I just asked, we weren't getting, I've always had low egg retrievals as well, and then low embryos that actually make it. So I just asked, is my egg quality? And then the response was, your egg quality is fine. It's fine within line with your age. And then he said, everyone's got poor egg quality, but just he just basically said it's not that. And I just was like, I just don't know how to take that, well, what? Tell me why then it's not working. Yep. And I'm not just saying it's purely the egg quality, but give me, that can't just be the reason. Your eggs for your age, everyone's got poor quality eggs in them. It's just trying to get the medication right. And I get that constantly.
Yeah, and that's exactly I remember after our first round when we miscarried, and I said to the doctor, okay, well, clearly quality was a problem in our case when we started because I got a grade D embryo. And well, there's nothing you can really do to improve your quality, but we can try again next time and maybe increase the dosages.
So, that's exactly it. Increase the dose. Yeah.
What I know now is increasing the dose just helps you to mature eggs in a volume. It doesn't actually help with the quality. So, that's what I said to I'm exactly, I feel you because I've been there as well. And I'm like, well, if it's not that, tell me what it is. And then they waffle about something and something and something.
Yep.
And you're like, well, that also makes no sense.
Yeah. And then it
doesn't give you an answer either.
Yeah. And you just think, hang on, I'm still a bit confused here. I still don't really have the answers. And then that also causes a lot of, and don't get me wrong, they're doing their job and they're here to get us pregnant, and I understand that, but I think it's also sometimes you do have to do your research and just and ask the questions that maybe you're afraid to ask or you're still a bit confused about, because it's easy for them just to be go, oh, well, just this is your medication. We're going to up it next time. It's a numbers game. I mean, I get that a lot.
I get that a lot. Yeah, I've had that a
You know,
lot.
it's a numbers game.
I think if you wanted to start with some questions around like why your IVF failed, and you wanted to start with questions around egg and embryo quality, I think the first one I would ask would be how many eggs actually fertilized, because that's a good starting point. So like in my case, I had 2 eggs, and by the time I got to the 4th round, both of them were fertilizing. Then your next question is, okay,
that's good, isn't it?
exactly. Yeah, it's phenomenal considering I was only getting 2 eggs. I mean, like the doctor said to me when I started, well, you're getting 2 eggs, fertilization rate is 50%. Making it to day 3 or day 5 is 25%. So, I mean, the first question is how many eggs fertilized? So, whatever your count was when they did egg retrieval, how many of those fertilized? The next question is how many of them make it to day 3 or day 5? So, in my case, both my embryos made it to day 3 and day 5. Because that will give you like a hint
and
already.
That's rare. Well, that's
it is exactly it's rare, especially when you've got especially when you've also got low AMH, right? The doctors are saying to you, well, if you do the numbers game, because they'll start, this is the classic doctor speech, they'll start with, you're going to get X number of embryos. So let's say you're going to get 10 embryos out of retrieval. 50% of them will fertilize. 75% of them will make it to day 3, and maybe 50% of them will make it to day 5. That's the numbers game they play. And then you do the math and you're like, well, actually, that means I've got 2 embryos by day 5. So that's the numbers game the doctors will tell you. So when like we got to day 5 and the 2 embryos they collected had both fertilized and they were day 5 and they were good enough to freeze, like that's telling me my egg and embryo quality is good. But like if you have to start to unpick why your IVF failed, those are the questions I would start asking. And I mean, I'd even ask them like, did they stop developing at any point? Because they may have actually made it to day 2 and then just stopped developing. That's another like hint that the egg and embryo quality is a problem. And they'd often know, they won't tell you about the ones that stop developing.
They won't tell you that. I've never said
that. No, they'll be like, oh, she made it.
Yeah. Or there was one that just stopped growing. Could have been, you know, it just, they never ever say anything about the quality of an egg or an embryo. And it's really quite sad because, as you said, that is then in our control in a way. We can help that.
We can help that.
So let us do that. Like tell, you know, and I think more awareness around that needs to be had, because all I get told is like the chromosome, you know, it's obviously they didn't match and it just wasn't healthy, you know. And that's kind of what you get. And you think, oh, again, it's kind of like, oh, okay, so great. Like it just didn't work. It's not like, hey, it could be a bit of quality. And then, okay, well, what can I do to make it a better quality next time, you know?
And there's no, like, I found walking through my journey in all 4 rounds, there was no help coming from the clinic.
No,
like they had their protocol. This is what we did. This is how it worked. I mean, they were shocked at the results we got. No idea how we did anything because the protocol stayed exactly the same.
Yeah.
So no idea how we got to what we got to, but there was no help going to come from the clinic in terms of what to do next, what to fix. Because that was the biggest part I struggled with IVF. It failed. And you're like, okay. And this is Einstein for you. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and expecting a different results, right? And I'm like, well, I'm going to do the next round of IVF, exactly the same protocol, haven't changed anything. Chances are I'm going to have the same answer.
Yeah.
I mean, like I would say to the doctors, okay, what can I do to help this? Is there anything we can do? And you'd get the vague answers that you had around, well, maybe it's quality, maybe it's not your quality, maybe it's your endometrial line. You do this test. And then you do that test and it comes back and it's all fine. And you're like, okay, well, now what?
Yeah.
And you end up in this like loop.
And you just think, why isn't this more frustrated? Because like, why isn't this working? They're saying that the results are fine. You know, everything seems to be okay. And it's like, well, then why? There's got to, you know. And it's that kind of comes back to the whole unexplained infertility too, which I get. I've had that so many times, and I understand people who do get that response. You just think it is just so like frustrating because you're like, what does that mean? You know, like unexplained. Well, great. So what? I just can't produce a baby, really, like for no reason. And
it's so like as a woman as well, because you look around you and you feel like your body's betraying you. Because like
Absolutely.
every other woman seems to, and it always seems like it's not true, but every other woman seems to be able to just fall pregnant at the drop of a hat like this. And you all of a
Yeah.
sudden see thousands of pregnant women in the shopping centers and on
Yeah.
walks. And you're like, I just don't understand why my body can't do what everybody else's body seems to just do instantly.
Yeah. I
The
know. And
doctors don't have that.
they don't. And all I used to kind of get was, we think, perhaps what could help is seeing someone like a counselor or a psychologist. We offer ones here, and that's what
Yep.
I've had a few times. And I just think, oh my God, yes, I probably could use seeing someone like that. Absolutely. Like they do help, but also it's still not getting my whole, what could I be doing to help this happen? Because I'm not really getting direct answers. And I understand sometimes, it's a little bit of trial and error with medication. I understand that. And it's like, we don't know how your body's going to react to this and that. And I get that. But I do think the whole quality side of things does go unspoken a bit and gets missed. And it's definitely not spoken about enough.
Oh, 100%. And the doctors, I don't know whether it's planned, or whether they're just trained in a certain way that, as far as they're concerned, there's nothing you can do.
And I think also going through this, it's not until you're not getting the result that you do start to question. I think it's a natural thing. You do start to question, like, are they even on my side here? Do they just want my money? And it's like, and that makes you feel even more alone, because it's like, I can't even really trust or rely on my doctor. Now, I'm not saying they're lying to me. However, I feel as though that relationship, it's like, okay, do they actually care that I get a baby at the end of the day? And I know that can sound a little bit harsh, and there are beautiful fertility specialists out there that obviously want that for you, but sometimes you feel like, well, why, why aren't I being told probably everything that I could be, or why do I have this feeling that you're not doing absolutely everything
Yep.
and providing me with as much information as you can? Because sometimes you don't feel that you're getting the information. You're on that, like, we're on a time limit here. We've got 40 minutes doctor's appointment, right? Like, come on. And all you want as a woman all you want is a baby. And please just help me do that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it's very interesting you say that, because we got to our fourth round, and which gave me my son. And I remember saying to the doctor, how many of your doctors in this clinic have actually had to go through IVF themselves? And she looked at me completely stunned. And she's like, nobody's ever asked me that question. I'm like, well, what's the answer? And she's like, well, none of the doctors in this clinic have had to do IVF.
Wow.
I'm like, I suggest you see if you can find a doctor that's actually had to do IVF. Because I tell you now, I think if you had someone in that position who's been through it, you would have an entirely different level of care. Because they know what that feeling of, like, I want something so badly, I will do just about anything. Like, if you told me to stand on my head, drink tea under a full moon, I would do it if that was going to get me a baby.
Oh, that is
Like,
just
that's the level.
that is, and it is so true, because and even I haven't thought about that question either. And you just think, yeah, because I think if they had been through it, there would just be this a bit more level of that, like, love and just understanding.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe the results would also be more positive for a lot of women.
Yeah, and I think we ought to just try, like, be a little bit more softer around the edges.
Yeah.
Because they are, like, I had a very good doctor, and she did try, but having been through as many, she didn't try hard enough.
Yeah.
Like, she could have made the journey easier, because also they see this every day. I mean, I look at it, I'm like, how many women go through their doors and they see this? I mean, they have a wealth of knowledge that they could really help people with, and yet it's my day job.
Yeah. And it's not uncommon, I don't think, either, for women to go through a few different specialists or doctors even through the process. Because I know I'm on to my third, and only because of circumstances have changed. But I'll tell you this now too, is every single one of them have tested different things, I've found out different things about me that I didn't know from one to the other, which also then makes it confusing. You think, well, why didn't the first fertility doctor test that? Now I've wasted a year. Like, there's just so much.
And I think that's the biggest problem with IVF. It's completely overwhelming, and you're alone. So like, where do you go to even like unpack this? And then heaven forbid you start the Google game, and you put in all your symptoms and you spend late hours at night trying to figure out how to solve some of this stuff, and you just go down a rabbit hole. And like that is really like why I started this process, because I'm like, I want to be the person I needed when I was in this. And not just the person I needed, like somebody who could actually say to me, well, you know, that doesn't work. I've tried it. It doesn't work.
Exactly.
Or like, try this. I know this works. Or like, your doctor is completely BSing you because it's not going to work. Like somebody, if I had me when I did mine, me would have said to me, don't do a Climate round. Your doctor is completely messing you around. Like, it's never going to work.
Yeah. And that is why you're also like me. This is the work that I do, and that's what I want for people. Is there's nothing better than learning, surrounding yourself with people who have been there and who can actually give you, advice and information from actually being in that same situation as you're currently in. It is just so important. And so, I mean, the work that you do is just so powerful. So just on that as well, so you have a program, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it called well, I know that in the program you produce, because I've actually done it. Well, I bought is it the Embryo Success Plan?
Yeah.
Love that. So I actually bought that last week, I think, and oh my God, amazing. So is that plan within a group, like a program, or?
Yeah, so it's the start of a program, because I started about 8 months ago because I had a friend going through this, and I'm like, she just needed help that was not a fertility doctor.
Yeah.
And then I helped her, and she fell pregnant.
Oh.
And then she said to a friend, oh, look, if you need help, go speak to Kirsten. Like, she'll give you some answers. And then my husband said to me, he's like, you know what? You spent thousands of hours researching, you need to put it to good use.
Yeah.
And he's like, and clearly it can make a difference. He's like, otherwise, he's like, if it wasn't going to make a difference, he's like, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like, it clearly makes a difference. So that's the beginning of what I would like to say is going to be a series, if you like. So what's in that one is the kind of the step-by-step roadmap that I took to go from where I was in round 1 with grade D embryos, telling me I need donor eggs and all the jazz that comes with that, to where I ended up with eggs good enough to freeze, and I've had 2 children off the back of that, which is technically phenomenal given what I started with. So I put everything in there, step by step, what you need to do, and I've tried to make it as simple as possible. All the way from, if you're going to throw one thing out of your kitchen, do this. If you're going to go gung-ho, do this. And it includes everything from your nutrition, how to detox it, so taking out the toxins out of your lifestyle. It includes the supplements that actually work.
That's another big one, supplements, yes.
That actually, because there's like a ton of them. There's a ton of them out there, and they all claim to do something magical. Some not all created equal, some work, some don't work, some work better than others. So in there, I've included the supplements, what to take, what works, how much to take, when to start and when to stop, because we don't want to harm the eggs or embryos by taking it too long or stopping too early. And then I also did, and the only reason I've actually got the last one in there around implantation and kind of mind-body strategies, is because until I fixed that, I didn't fall pregnant. So I had good embryos in round 2 and round 3, both grade B embryos, and the other one got frozen. So I had 2 frozen embryos. But before I did round 4, I fixed the mind-body connection. And when I did that, I fell pregnant. So it was like a double whammy. It was, yes, I had great embryos, but there was something missing between how I was feeling. And it really, like, when I say mind body, people get all over, oh, this is spooky stuff. I'm treading into the like mindset, health stuff. I'm really talking about thinking yourself pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really just changing the way you think about you, the way you think about your body, and
Oh,
almost breathing life into that embryo and willing it to stay with you. And that's like, until I fixed that, I felt pregnant with my son, and the next round I felt pregnant with my daughter.
oh, and honestly, it's something that I've had a lot of conversations with women lately around that, and I feel as though that's coming up for a reason for me. Again, you don't really think about that at the
No,
start
you're
of
in the
this.
world of technical
You are.
jargon and medicine.
You are. It's just medication, and you again, the more that you're in it and you're doing your research and you're listening to people like you and watching things, you just go, oh my God, of course there's a connection there, because we are, while you're going through it, right, you don't really feel that great about yourself. Well, I know for me, I feel sick and I feel a bit bloated and I feel a bit, fat and all that sort of stuff. And so, of course, if you're talking to yourself like, oh, I'm just gross, or this is, that's not a great mindset to be in.
Yeah, and you're stressed, right? You're like worried, is this round going to work? Is it
Yeah.
not going to round? Like, do I
Yeah.
need to be doing something different? All those thoughts are happening. And I mean, so my hack for this is find 30 minutes a day. Like, I found 30 minutes a day, and I just laid on a couch
Yeah.
and I just ran the same things through my head for 30 minutes a day. And like, that made the difference, clearly, because like, we had good embryos before, but until I fixed that, we didn't fall pregnant. And yeah, it's like you said, you're so absorbed, and IVF is all consuming, whether you want to be all consumed by it or not. It just takes over with a
Takes
sweep.
over. Oh, yeah.
It's all consuming, and you don't even begin to look up out of that as to what could be possible.
Exactly.
So, and that's really why I have that last section, because I want women to do the 90 days of things to help your egg and embryo quality, but I also want to make sure that when you do get to the point where you have solidly good eggs and embryos, that you are ready for baby. Like, it needs to implant and it needs to grow and it's going to stay with you. And I want to make sure you're in the best place for that to happen, as well as having good quality eggs and embryos.
Well, I tell you what, honestly, what you're offering and what it's all about is absolutely amazing. You should be super proud. I think a lot of women need to hear this episode and to follow you and to be a part of your world. I think, it's, absolutely life-changing. So that brings me to my next thing. Where can people find you, Kirsten? Like, where are you on Instagram? Well, I know you're on Instagram, but what's your handle?
So Instagram is the easiest to find me, because it's just my name. So Kirsten.Coutinho. I am on YouTube and Facebook, but it sits under Embryo Quality Secrets.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is I will be able to. I'll put them in the notes so people can know where to find you. I think anyone out there listening, absolutely get in touch. I think you're doing absolute wonders, and what you're offering is just life-changing for women going through this journey. So it's just amazing.
I'm happy to help, but like I said, my mission is just to help one person. If I can help one person, I've changed the game.
Yeah, amazing. Oh, well, on that note, we might wrap that up, but thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. Some really valuable information in this episode. So I look forward to continuing watching your journey. But yes, you've been amazing. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time and for inviting me to be part of your podcast. That's an honor in its own.
No worries at all. Thanks, Kirsten.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.